Sophie Law. BBC Radio Oxford.
Now, how long have you been waiting for community facilities in your corner of Oxfordshire? Maybe you've had a few months wait or a year-long wait. What about waiting 30 years? A group of residents has launched a petition calling on Oxford City Council to buy and secure the derelict Jericho Wharf site so that new community facilities can go there. Plans for the land by the Oxford Canal, which include a working boatyard and affordable housing, have been through several developers over the past 30 years but are still yet to be delivered. Now, the Jericho Wharf Trust is asking the council to buy the land itself in an effort to move the project forward and get those facilities which they say are desperately needed. I'm joined on the line by Dr. Phyllis Starkey, who's chair of the Trust, and with me here in the studio is Bruce Heagerty, the secretary of the Jericho Community Boatyard. Morning to you both.
Morning.
Phyllis, for those who don't know the area that well, tell me about the site and why that you think these upgrades are desperately needed.
Well, this site is along the side of the canal, obviously, because it's called the Jericho Wharf, by St Barnabas Church, which, of course, is a Grade 1 listed church. And it was the site previously of a working boatyard. And the planning rules say that the development of the site must include a replacement boatyard, a new community centre to replace the current community centre, which is not fit for purpose, is a fairly fragile building and can't be made accessible for people with disabilities, and it's not big enough either. And over the 30 years since it was in public ownership and the 20 years since it's been in the hands of 3 different landowners, we've had 4 different planning applications, all of which have tried to maximise the profit for the developer and shortchange both the council and the local community. And the last 2 planning applications were approved in 2015, but in 2022, but have not been proceeded with, and there appears to be no plans to proceed with it. Indeed, they appear to be trying to sell the site to a new developer, and we'll be back in the same completely unpredictable cycle of a planning application being discussed with the community which doesn't deliver community needs, which doesn't get approval, or which does get approval, and the developer doesn't actually proceed with it, but simply moves on to get a new developer to try and make more profit. And
have you checked in with other areas, Phyllis? Like, do you know whether this is maybe the longest running?
We haven't checked that. We've been concentrating on our own. And obviously this is a huge issue, both for people living in Jericho, for the church itself, which is a derelict site adjacent to the church, which is not adding anything to the heritage of that site, the boaters, which Bruce represents, and the people who are interested in Jericho heritage. All these 4 organisations have been working together for the last 15 to 20 years with landowners to try and get something that will satisfy the owners of the site, but will also meet the needs of the community. And we have been failed by a series of developers who have forced us to compromise on various points and then have not proceeded with the plans at all.
Well, let's check in on the boating community. Bruce is here. Bruce, why is this so important for the boating community?
Well, the boatyard, when we had it 20 years ago, was the only place in Oxford that we could take our boats out of the water and firstly get them checked to check the hulls are all right, and then to black them and repair them where's needed.
And for people that don't know, how often do you need to do that?
You need to do that about every 3 or 4 years just to check the hulls all right, and if you don't do that, and if you haven't got somewhere to take it out, then your hull starts rusting. Your hull's rusted about 1 millimetre a decade. Now, we've had 2 decades without a boatyard in Oxford. That means that anybody who hasn't managed to get their boats 5 hours up the river or even further up the canal haven't checked their hulls and have been probably rusting away. They've rusted away 2 millimetres, and that's why boats are starting to sink now. I've had my neighbour had her boat condemned. There's a boat sunken up by Wolvercote Lock right now. This is a travesty, really, and it's we've been very, very shabbily treated, and our boats are becoming shabbier and shabbier.
I mean, if they do sink, presumably then it's quite complicated to get that boat out, and that can block the river for
Yeah, it
others?
can block the canal, and obviously you have to put a flotation bag inside, and then you need to get it towed upriver and things like that. And boaters need to be able to look after their boats. We really need that. And this has been a completely neglected issue now for 20 years. We've worked really hard with two developers with Phyllis and others in the Jericho Wharf Trust to design a new boatyard community centre sort of hybrid thing, which would, that place should be a thriving community hub right now, where boaters meet the community and we're all working together. And it's not, and there's been a vacant yard there for 20 years. In Bristol, for example, there's a wharf down there which was waiting for development. They put in sort of temporary markets and things like that, and the whole place is thriving and working. Here we've nothing like that. We've just got a closed down yard that's owned by somebody who lives in Hong Kong. And the boaters are just being ignored. And
to be clear, I mean, you're not just talking about sort of pleasure boats. You're talking about, this is people's homes. They're living on the boats.
This is my own home. I haven't been able to take my boat out of the water for 10 years, and I'm sincerely worried about its hull, and that's where I live. Yeah.
I mean, in the sort of dream world sorry, Phyllis, I just want to ask Bruce a little bit more. Like, in terms of what do you get out of living on the water? Why do you love it so much?
The community, the quietness, to be honest, and just being on the water is a very peaceful way to live, and the community is full of teachers and carers and very lovely people who basically need somewhere where they can service their boats. I mean, imagine if you wanted to service your car and you had to go all the way up to Glasgow to do so. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a five-hour trip. We need somewhere in Oxford. Oxford's boats are getting shabbier and shabbier, and we need to be treated less shabbily, and we need to be put in a boatyard where we can fix up our boats.
Phyllis, the council said it will need some time to respond to this appeal. How hopeful are you that this is a realistic solution at this compulsory purchase?
This is a completely realistic way of getting out of this ridiculous situation, which is not benefiting anybody. It's not benefiting the council either. They have to deal with all these ridiculous planning applications, which cost them time and money, and then there's no output. We've worked this out very carefully. We have an expert who's working with us who has previously taken a CPO through the council, a compulsory purchase order. The council has some money set aside in its budget, which would enable it to cover the costs of applying for a compulsory purchase order, and it would simply buy the site for the real value of the site, which is about £1 million, and would then be able to sell it on to another reputable developer with a contract to deliver all of the community facilities and housing and a public open space. And the site would be developed in the way in which the community and the council wish it to be developed. And as Bruce has described, we would finish up with a vital hub that was brought boaters and the land-based community together and provided the sorts of community centre that the people who live in Jericho and around Jericho need, and would also serve all the other people who live on both sides of the canal and in this area, including the Rooley Road area, for example. And it would, in the end, it would be the ideal solution which the city and the council both desire. Of course, we understand that it's complicated and we need to discuss the details with the council, but we're very pleased by the positive response that we've had so far for the council, and we will continue to work with them to make sure that between us we can deliver what both the boaters and the Jericho community and the wider community of Oxford want.
Okay.
It's a vibrant space next door to this heritage church, St Barnabas, and opening up that view of St Barnabas from the canal instead of the shabby hoardings that are there at the moment.
Thank you. Keep us posted both on what happens next. The City Council, we spoke to the Cabinet Member for Finance and Asset Management, Ed Turner, who says we are looking to meet with representatives from the Trust to discuss this. They'll need some time to consider and properly respond to the appeal, but they would like to thank the Trust for their continued involvement and effort in trying to bring the site forward.